welcome. I love being a visitor and getting to welcome a congregation to itself. And that's kind of how we are. You know, there's this mysterious sense of relationships, our 1,000-odd congregations across North America, communities of the heart that we share around the globe. At roughly this hour in each of our time zones, we gather. We bring ourselves just as we are, in good spirits, in down spirits, with joys, with sorrows. Somehow we find ourselves up and here. We're young, we're old, we're all the spaces in between. We are here for some mysterious project. As Unitarian Universalists, we don't have a creed that binds us, but we do have intuitions and commonalities that we explore in this hour, in which we can find in ourselves and in each other the possibilities of new life, dreams of new worlds, dreams of what might yet be. So in that mysterious spirit, in that invitation, welcome. In that spirit, in that invitation, come, dear ones, let us worship together.
Please rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn, which is 118 in the gray hymnal, or you can look at the words online or on our little screen here. It is "This Little Light of Mine."
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Please remain risen as we do our covenant in both English and Spanish. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity and fellowship, thus do we covenant. La doctrina de esta iglesia es el amor. La búsqueda de la verdad es su sacramento y el servicio es su oración. Vivir juntos en paz, buscar el conocimiento en libertad, servir a la humanidad en comunión. Este es nuestro pacto. Do you want to? This chalice lighting, and if you are at home and you can grab your chalice now, this chalice lighting is by Cynthia Landrum. As we kindle this flame, may it spark in each of us connection and commitment to this living tradition and to each other. Good morning and welcome. Welcome to Emerson Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm Melissa Marote, and my pronouns are she and her, and I'm honored to serve as your worship associate this morning. Our church, named after the Unitarian minister and philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson, has been a part of the West Valley for about 70 years now. Please take a moment to silence your phones, and we thank you all for wearing your mask today. I want to begin by acknowledging that our church is built on land stolen from those who have called it home for thousands of years. The nearby villages of Tatanga and Afansanga were a crossroads of cultures and language for the Tongva, Tataviam, and Chumash peoples. This land remains part of their enduring identity and heritage. We recognize that these tribes are still here, and we are committed to honoring their stories, culture, and community. So welcome all of you to our service online and here in the sanctuary. Unitarian Universalists have many guiding principles. Our work for a better world calls us to harness love's power to stop oppression. As Unitarian Universalists, we put our faith into action. We model these commitments by creating welcoming and inclusive congregations. We act in partnership with groups and communities most impacted by injustice. We stand on the side of love and work on ending oppression. It is who we are, what we believe, and what we do. We hope you find a community of like-minded folks here in the spiritual sanctuary. Today, our minister, Reverend Matthew McHale, is sick. So we are very grateful to have Reverend James Ishmael Ford stepping in last minute to honor Martin Luther King Jr. in his sermon. Reverend James is a minister emeritus of the First Unitarian Church of Providence. Retired from parish ministry, he has been consulting with Los Angeles area churches for the past several years. He is also a Zen teacher and writer. His 6th book, The Intimate Way of Zen, Effort, Surrender, and Awakening on the Spiritual Journey, is forthcoming in July from Shambhala Publications. Shambhala Publications. Thank you again for helping us out very last minute. We really appreciate it, and we are very excited to hear what you have to say. Now, if this is your first or second time visiting Emerson, then I extend to you a very special welcome, and I invite you to learn more about our guiding principles, which can be found actually in the very first couple of pages in our gray hymnal. I encourage you to get involved in the things that we offer here at Emerson, like choir, small group ministries, book, and hiking clubs. Please sign our online guest book or the guest book here, or actually out there in the foyer, about our upcoming events. And please also plan to stay after, if you have a chance, to stay for our coffee hour. We also have a virtual coffee hour as well. And also, if you would like to share a joy or concern with the congregation later in the service, please write in the virtual book of life if you're online, or there is a little book of life behind Kevin behind the piano. Now, in the spirit of fellowship, let's take a moment to greet our neighbors.
Thanks. Hey, how you doing?
That was quite a medley.
Oh, thanks. I know. I was trying to figure out what to do for the postlude. I realized, I Googled last night, what were Martin Luther King's favorite hymn? What was his favorite hymn? So I found out what it was, and I'm going to play it for postlude. It's called "Take My Hand," or actually, "Precious Lord, Take My Hand." I think I accidentally swapped the thing, but it's "Precious Lord, Take My Hand." It's a
Did you get a ticket for the event? Okay, good. All right. It's good to be together. And after our coffee hour, I'm thinking, this tree needs to be put away. I was like, it's still here. Oh no. So if anyone feels like they'd like to put things away, we can put it away today if you'd like to help out. All right. So Reverend Matthew was kind enough to help me find a story of all ages. Hopefully there's some little, it's called Martin's Big Words. The words by Martin's Big Words by Doreen Rappaport, illustrated by Brian Collier. Okay. Everywhere in Martin's hometown, he saw the signs, white only. His mother saw these signs were in all southern cities and towns in the United States. Every time Martin read the words, he felt bad until he remembered what his mother told him. You are as good as anyone. In church, Martin sang hymns. He read from the Bible. He listened to his father preach. These words made him feel good. When I grow up, I'm going to get big words too. Martin grew up. He became a minister like his father, and he used the big words he had heard as a child from his parents and from the Bible. Everyone can be great. He studied the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi, and he learned how the Indian nation won freedom without even firing a gun. Martin said love when others said hate. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. He said together when others said separate. He said peace when others said war. Sooner or later, all the people of the world will have to discover a way to live together. In 1955, on a cold December day in Montgomery, Alabama, Rosa Parks was coming home from work. A white man told her to get up from her seat on the bus so he could sit. She said no and was arrested. Montgomery's black citizens learned of her arrest. It made them angry. They decided not to ride the buses until they could sit anywhere they wanted. For 381 days, they walked to work and school and church. They walked in rain and cold and in blistering heat. Martin walked with them and talked with them and sang with them and prayed with them until the white city leaders had to agree that they could sit anywhere they wanted. When the history books are written, someone will say there lived black people who had the courage to stand up for their rights. In the next 10 years, black Americans all over the South protested for equal rights. Martin walked with them and talked with them and sang with them and prayed with them. White ministers told them to stop. Mayors and governors and police chiefs and judges ordered them to stop. But they kept on marching. Wait! For years I have heard the words, wait! We have waited more than 340 years for our rights. They were jailed and beaten and murdered, but they kept on marching. Some black Americans wanted to fight back with their fists. Martin convinced them not to by reminding them of the power of love. Love is the key to the problems of the world. Many white Southerners hated and feared Martin's words. A few threatened to kill him and his family. His house was bombed. His brother's house was bombed, but he refused to stop. Remember, if I am stopped, this movement will not be stopped because God is with this movement. The marches continued. More and more Americans listened to Martin's words. He shared his dream and filled them with hope. I have a dream that one day in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. After 10 years of protests, the lawmakers in Washington voted to end segregation. The white-only signs in the South came down. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. cared about all Americans. He cared about people all over the world, and people all over the world admired him. In 1964, he won the Nobel Peace Prize. He won it because he taught others to fight with words, not fists. Martin went wherever people needed help. In April 1968, he was in Memphis, Tennessee. He went to help garbage collectors who were on strike. He walked with them and talked with them and sang with them and prayed with them. On his second day there, he was shot. He died. His big words are alive for us today. And now we're going to do our UU affirmation. And for those of you who are new here for the first time, you just kind of watch our hand signs. We are Unitarian Universalists, of people of open minds, loving hearts, and welcoming hands. The purpose of this church is to encourage and challenge all who gather here to stretch ourselves, to live with more gratitude and generosity of spirit. All of the world's faith traditions have had the goal of bringing us closer to a higher power through acts of creation and compassion. We now take an offering that allows us to exercise that all-important generosity, an offering that will support this self-supporting church and its many ministries. This month, as part of our commitment to our UU value of generosity, we are sharing the offering plate with Communities for a Better Environment. Their mission is to build people's power in California's communities of color and low-income communities to achieve environmental health and justice by preventing and reducing pollution and building green, healthy, and sustainable communities and environments. Communities for a Better Environment provides residents in heavily polluted urban communities in California with organizing skills, leadership training, and legal, scientific, and technical assistance so that they can successfully confront threats to their health and well-being. Donations can be made at donate.emersonyuuc.org or using the Breeze CHMS mobile app and selecting Sunday Offering. If you're writing a check, please make checks payable to Emerson UU Church and write "Share the Plate" in the memo. If you would like to make a payment on a pledge, please write "Pledge" in the memo instead. Our offerings will now be gratefully received. Thank you.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
take a moment to soften our gaze or close our eyes, uncross your legs. Take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it at the top. But before you let it out, sneak one more breath in before you let it out. Feel the sit bones in your chair. Feel the floor beneath your feet. Take in another deep breath. Relax the muscles around your mouth, your eyes. Soften your shoulders. Let's get comfortable and settle into this safe space. Every one of us is a part of a web of life that makes us one with all humanity, one with all the universe. We are grateful for the miracle of consciousness that we share, the consciousness that gives us the power to reflect and to care for others. Each week we share our joys and concerns. Eric Schmidt writes in the Book of Life, if you can please support Emerson Community Garden by purchasing a cactus in the pavilion so we can buy vegetable plants and compost for our spring garden. I'm checking the virtual Book of Life. Some sorrows are too raw to speak aloud. If you are holding someone in your heart this morning and want to send them healing energy and loving kindness, you can write their name in the chat or you can call out their name after I ring the singing bowl. Michelle, Spike, Heather, Reef, Robbie. May the arms of this community hold us in loving kindness. May the love and compassion we experience here move beyond these walls, touching all who are in need.
The spirit of reflection, of contemplation, of prayer is as ancient as human hearts. We're drawn together in our sadness. We're drawn together in our joy, our small memories, our big memories. This whole mysterious mess. I hope that we can take a moment to recall, in addition to our own issues, so many things. All those who are sick, of course. The loved of our community, families, friends. I looked. In the moment, there are some 44 million people in our country under dangerous winter weather advisories. There are more than 300 million people facing acute levels of food insecurity, many starvation. The progression of global warming and climate change. A little more specifically, those who are cold and hungry and without shelter here in the San Fernando Valley and Los Angeles. And beyond, the hurt and the small joys, the many things that are possible and good. In the litany of ill, the suffering of the peoples in Israel and Palestine, especially Gaza. The rise of far right-wing populism around the world, including in our country. And the helpers. We need to remember the helpers. The workers for peace and justice and mutuality. Those who care. And those who act out of that caring. In this moment of silence, of reflection, of contemplation, of prayer, let's remember them. One of my favorite sacred texts is the Blue Cliff Record. It's an anthology of sayings from China in the 12th century, gathered together in the 12th century. One of them is preserved as case 89. Yun Yan asked Dao Wu, two worthies of the Zen way, ancient teachers of our way. Yun Yan asked, how does the Bodhisattva Guan Yin use those many hands and eyes? Guan Yin, Avalokiteshvara, the archetype of compassion in Buddhism, shared throughout Chinese and East Asian cultures. Sometimes you see pictures of her and she looks exactly like Mary. Other times you look at her and there's the Hindu goddess with the many hands. She's all those things and more. How does the Bodhisattva Guan Yin use those many hands and eyes? Dao Wu answered, it is like someone in the middle of the night reaching behind her head for a pillow. Yun Yan said, I understand. And Dao Wu pushed, how do you understand? Yun Yan said, all over the body are hands and eyes. Dao Wu said, very well expressed, but it's really only 8/10 of the way. Oh, dear older brother, how would you say it? Dao Wu said, throughout the body are hands and eyes. Just a few more heartbeats of silence. We don't need the instructions, we need the quiet of our hearts. Presence to what is, to the suffering and the joy, to each other and what we are and what we might be. Just a couple of heartbeats. Throughout the body are hands and eyes. Love is everywhere. Love. there is more love somewhere.
There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
Our text, our reading for today, a little medley of words from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We are caught up in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. There are some things in our social system to which all of us ought to be maladjusted. Hatred and bitterness can never cure the disease of fear. Only love can do that. We must evolve for all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. Before it is too late, we must narrow the gaping chasm between our proclamations of peace and our lowly deeds which precipitate and perpetuate war. One day, we must come to see that peace is not merely a distant goal that we seek, but a means by which we arrive at that good. We must pursue peaceful ends through peaceful means. We shall hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. I was watching some Peel and Key video clips, and one of them is the poor schlub, features the poor schlub who on that great mall in Washington D.C. had the fate of having to preach after Martin Luther King. For some reason, I find myself thinking of that. Sometime back before COVID, my spouse Jan, who's over there, and I attended one of the annual MLK Day marches in Long Beach. Our first since leaving New England, as we both retired and wanted to be near family here in California. We walked with a contingent from the Long Beach UU church there. I've joined such marches over the years any number of times, some small, some large, some with a lot of drama, some without. This one was big. The parade itself featured nearly 90 different contingents. And so there were lots of people doing their own thing, including the mix of people hawking various wares. Me, recently home from many years in New England, I was sorely tempted by several people offering homemade tamales. Others offered T-shirts, mostly featuring Dr. King's face. Still others, well, it wasn't always clear what the connections were supposed to be. There are those who are of the opinion that MLK Day celebrations have washed away the complexities of the man and his message. Me, I hear that, and I'm not so dismissive. There is, however, a lot going on, and the agendas, well, they are mixed. There were the occasional ironic juxtapositions at that march. I particularly recall an elderly gentleman walking on the sidewalk along the high school ROTC marchers with a sign that read, "Martin Luther King Jr. opposed war, as do I." At that time, there were dueling chants of Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter, and who was with whom was not as obvious as you might think. One might say there were many dreams on offer. Dreams. When I consider this day, I particularly find my heart going to dreams. It reminds me of when Dr. King was assassinated. After the police and FBI arrived, during all the confusion, people running around, agents trying to get a handle on what had happened, one agent informed his superior on a walkie-talkie how he had just heard Coretta say that Martin's dream would never die. There was, I gather, a pause. Then the agent's superior instructed him, find out what that dream was. Dreams. What a question. Really, what a wonderful question. What was Martin's dream? And, yes, and, what were the dreams of all those people at that Long Beach March? And, well, all of the dreams in the now many years since his death in 1968. And more questions flow, intimate ones. What dreams occupy your hearts? When we discuss our dreams, we move into strange and mysterious waters. But most of all, for today, for us, what was Dr. King's dream? It touches, I believe, the great heart of our lives, who we are and what we might be. And I suggest within the dream world, with all those wild differences, selling religions, selling tamales, selling messages of war and peace, there are strands, there are connections. Today, in this brief time, let's consider just a couple of things. First, I want to assert that among the many dreams, there is a deep connection. There is, in fact, a profound dream at the heart of all these dreams. Among the many stars we follow, there is also one star, mysterious and beckoning. It is the dream of our common humanity. Dr. King spoke to a large part of this dream within his work for racial justice. Toward the end of his life, the focus out of that great dream was beginning to turn to include economic justice. But I think it's important to notice his overarching dream, which we will look at, always had specificity. That which is universal must always be expressed within a particular. And that there are many particulars is also important. Love is not found in general. It is always your love. It is always my love, always some specific love. Love. Dreams. Dr. King's message, his dream was of some abiding love, a transformative love. If so, there's a question for us in our liberal churches. What about the deep dream of the human heart that we intuit in our generally more rationalist, naturalist, this worldly way, that calls us to work for racial justice, to work for civil rights, for gay and lesbian and transgender people, for the poor and for the disenfranchised? We know. At that banner, we carried at that parade, we carried a banner that sang, "Standing on the side of love." The banner has changed in recent years, siding with love. The message remains. Love. It's love. It's always been love. Love, that mysterious force in our lives that draws us together and sometimes throws us apart. Love with its many faces. So what is love as the deep dream? In his I Have a Dream speech, Dr. King sang it out to us. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Here we find the dream, the deep dream, dreamed into our lives across cultures and throughout time, from the deepest place of our hearts, from the most profound knowing of our beings. Love. This is the truth. We are all caught up together more intimately than words can ever convey. True love. And it really is a universal dream. No religion owns love, although all partake of it to some degree or another. And it isn't exclusively the property of religions either. Now, honestly, some articulate it better and more completely, although also which is that better is often a bit different for each of us. Recently, a friend commented how while he found the Christian and Jewish and Muslim mystics speaking of all being one, a valuable pointer on his own way to knowing the deepest, he found the Zen Buddhist expression, not one, not two, just a little more helpful. Let me repeat the phrase, not one, not two. Not exactly one, but not precisely two. That difficult sense of connection that is intimate but not identical tells us something about how we need to relate to each other. Family becomes a powerful image, if not quite right, not quite what it is, but it points, as does the word love. And statements like the UU theologian Thandayaka's love beyond belief. None is quite right. It's so messy. It's always been messy. And we can count many contradictions, some profound, but always there is a pointing. Like a dream. Not fully expressed, mutable, mysterious. There is something important in these different expressions about love found in different religions and, of course, in our own hearts. There are dynamics within our unity. It is never static. And so, in some ways, Dr. King's expression of it being like a network can be helpful. And then sometimes we do find it more like a garment. The sense of our connection, our feeling quality of it, sometimes put on, sometimes dropped off. I have an interest in the work of the emergent church. Specifically theologian Brian McLaren, one of the new crop of clerics who, along with Rob Bell, are condemned by other evangelical and fundamentalist Christians as, heaven help us, universalists. Not exactly what most of us might mean by that word, but for our purposes here in a Unitarian Universalist congregation, close enough. Dreams, love, universalism. The Reverend McLaren was asked, well, what about the Unitarians, the Unitarian Universalists? In his response, he was, for the most part, generous with us. He saw how we've walked away from the problematic assertions of the Orthodox Christian churches out of which we came. But he also noted, quote, any religious community which deconstructs without reconstructing will put it all at a disadvantage. That said, he also sees things going on. We are in the process of reconstructing, of finding our unique expression of the deeper truths, our dreams of love. So he joins with that other interesting Christian theologian who knows us very well, the process scholar Dr. John Cobb, who incidentally has spoken at our First Unitarian Church of Los Angeles many times, as well as at our Continental General Assembly. Both these theologians observing, but I'm picking McLaren's words, how they believe the best contributions of we Unitarians are in our future, and what we can be has not yet been fully manifested. I would say we're further along in that reconstruction that the Reverends Cobb and McLaren and their company appear to think. We are beginning to articulate the deep dream in very interesting, and I believe with my heart, useful and compelling ways. In the 1970s, the UU Women's Federation began the conversation which would culminate in 1985 as our current statement of principles and purposes. It was insistent this was not a creed, something believed to be forever and ever, and which one must sign on to belong, but something descriptive, a snapshot of what the larger number of us saw as deeply true and compelling in a moment. It served us for nearly 40 years. I think the most distinctive feature of that statement was its seventh principle about our being caught up in part of an interdependent web. It opened us to different approaches to the ancient dream. This time, more akin perhaps to the ancient Buddhist scripture, the flower ornament, which sang of how we are constantly creating and being created by each other. It was enshrined as the second article of our denominational bylaws. And now I'm guessing most of us here know we're halfway through the process of a new document, another attempt at a snapshot. The new draft language now puts the word love at the center. The text says, love is the power that holds us together and is the center of our shared values. Then it speaks of inseparable values arising out of love: interdependence, pluralism, justice, transformation, generosity, equity. They're not numbered, but I find significance in the fact interdependence is listed first. This dynamic is identifiable as expressions of love. Love is both the foundation and a discipline. It is our deep intuition, and it is how we live into the world. Or can. We always have an escape clause. And another word not in any of the texts that I've noticed, but is deeply implied in both assertions, is intimacy. Love experienced is intimate. Love expressed is intimate. Dreams, love, universalism, intimacy. It is as ancient as our human hearts. We are simply struggling to express it in a bit more clearly. A project no doubt will never fully express to anyone's satisfaction, of course. But it is a struggle we actively embrace in this tradition of freedom, reason, hope, and courage. And it realizes that Dr. King's dream is ours. Love abides. Here's good news worth proclaiming. And within our liberal religious assemblies, we do, without ever having stepped into a UU congregation anywhere in this country. I know they do. I've been here a few times. BC, before covenant, before COVID, yes. Yeah. But that's an ancient world. The new world, it was true of you then. I know it's true of you now. It is the deep dream that drove Dr. King into a lifetime struggle and even to an assassin's bullet while working for the full civil rights of people, first of African descent and then of working class people, who we know, whatever the color of our skins, are our people, us. It is what drives many of us today to put it on the line in the struggle for full civil rights for gay and lesbian and transgender people. Whoever we love, we know are our people, us. It is what calls so many of us, whatever the conditions of our lives, to seek ways to resolve the suffering of immigration in our immigrants in our country today, to bring people in from the shadows and to full possibilities of a healthy community, knowing they are our people, us. And that includes the people who resist this. They are our people, us. It is knowing every homeless person, every hungry person, every person denied justice and a place is us. And of course, the dream includes the earth itself, us, you and me. Love, universalism, intimacy, an ancient dream birthing into life over and over. This is our dream. Edgar Allan Poe on one occasion observed, "Those who dream by day are cognizant of many things which escape those who dream only at night." We dream this great dream from sleep and waking into reality, week after week, within our liberal religious communities, within this community. And dreaming into reality, we find many concerns rising. Coming to know community and our own place, raising our children and work, and lots of it, feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, seeking housing for those without homes, and helping to protect those in danger of losing their homes, protecting the earth. And most dangerously, also out of that deep dream, asking why these things happen. Dreaming dreams, dreaming the dream at night and during the day, and living it out into the world. That's our dangerous calling. And this is important. It includes our personal dreams, yours and mine. I think it is so important for us to express these personal dreams, to share them here, and in that, to find how they complement or even join together, like weaving a cloak. And in that weaving, to reveal the great dream, the ancient dream, the dream of connection so intimate as to make the world a garment of love, a garment of destiny. Dear Martin and his dream, love, universalism, intimacy. This is the dreaming of our hearts. This is the dream of heart, love, nothing less. Let's join together in the great work. Let us find in each other the great mystery, and in that finding, let us turn our feet toward that North Star and continue our journey toward liberation for ourselves and for the many beings. Love in its many expressions, love and its many hands. Amen. And amen. Come and go with me. Maybe we want to stand.
Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound.
Even white people singing. Please be seated for a moment. The hour's over. We have much to do. Hopefully there's rest in there, but there's work to do. I hear maybe taking down a Christmas tree will be part of that. But there's many things. There's life. There's children. There's love. There's action. There are so many things that we need to do. Most of all, we need to nourish ourselves. Know that you are good enough who you are. You are a child of love. You're a child of possibility. Let us take that knowledge. Let us know from our bones into our flesh and take it forward into this world that desperately needs us, you, love. Let us depart in peace and with just a hint of unrest.